Towers of Aghasba is an open-world survival game with tribal themes. It's all about building up your settlements, restoring ecosystems, and questing around the world. Sounds like an adventurer's dream, right? I've played about 50 hours of this game, and I've pretty much hit completion of it. So today, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the game and uncover the pros and cons behind this graphical mysteria. Towers have been in the works for 7 years with a small development team. It's taken inspiration from many titles such as Animal Crossing, Stardew Valley, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and many more. For games I've played, it reminds me a lot of Enshrouded versus Stardew, as it's not your traditional sense of survival, but it most definitely has the survival grind. It has a bit of an identity crisis in that way, which is not necessarily a bad thing. What I mean by this is Towers doesn't have a food or water bar like most survivals have. You don't need to sleep either, but you can to skip the day. Instead, you use food to heal, and that's its main purpose. Tools have durability and low durability at that, meaning you need to make a lot of them. There is also a lot of resource grind. You'll need to cut trees, mine rocks, pick bushes, and find random rare items around the world. From exploring to building certain structures or upgrade your tree, which in turn will unlock more rare foliage for later game upgrades. From watching their promo material before launch, I found this quite interesting because they made a point of wanting to pull away from the survival element, and they wanted to be more of an open world sandbox adventure game. But to me, it's about as survivally as it gets. Luckily for them, I am big into the survival genre, so it was not a problem for me, but it definitely isn't as laid back as it seems. It feels like it's trying to be something else than what it actually is, if you catch my drift, especially with the multiplayer in mind, as this is made purely to be like Animal Crossing, aka visit your friend's town, look around, and leave. Co-op mode was severely disappointing for me. The game feels like it would really benefit from a multiplayer function, especially with the amount of farming needed. It is extremely limited what you can do, and damn right busted and buggy if you try to attempt co-op play, with inventory items duplicating, things not rendering in, portals not being shared, and all sorts. I will mention here though, this has been acknowledged, and the game developers are going to make a shift to make this a priority as it's not up to scratch, which is a super positive thing, so hold on your horses for those that like a multiplayer game. Anyways, we move on. All the buildings and artwork are really well done in Towers. I enjoy the art style. My only request would be able to go into buildings or have a little shelter you can build for yourself, where you could put storage down. Because I've been building nice houses for everyone else in this damn town, but I'm still living in a tent. Character design is also done pretty well. There is this character called Ajit, who is simply insufferable for the majority of the playthrough. But in the end, I had a laugh with my friends as it became a bit of a meme when he kept pointing at his family crest. The humour is very light-hearted, and it's a nice change of pace. Ecosystems in the game are really neat. You plant a colossal seed in the ground and boom! It's looking a lot more friendly around here now. I like the fact that upon upgrading the tree, more things grow, it spreads out more, and bigger creatures come to visit your lands, meaning more diverse wildlife to scan and feed. The really tall creatures are super majestic. The air creatures are fiddly to scan, but can prove well for bow hunting. And the water creatures, well, forget scanning them. I'm not really a fan of the parkour needed for later trees to get on the tops of them. Mind you, I'm not into parkour in general, so I feel like I carry a bit of bias there. But I think it's neat you can gather fruit off of them and seeds for bigger, cooler trees. Which, by the way, if you take them to different biomes, they can grow into different looking trees, like this giant pineapple here, or this flat-topped bushy tree, which has to be my favourite. Amity costs for higher upgrades I feel needs balancing. I have 3 trees that cost me 1,500 amity, and that is one heck of a grind, considering if you do anything negative to the environment, it costs you amity. Which brings me to the other side of the game. But before that, a quick message from me. If you're enjoying today's video, smash a like on it and subscribe for more. I do love a good open world adventure, and you can find many on my channel. Thank you! City building is an opposing feature to the ecosystem growing in towers. You focus on one or the other at a time, because building your town could cost you amity, and you need amity to grow things within your ecosystem. So it's definitely a balancing game. Town building is very cool though. You get one main town where all the story NPCs will reside, and 2 villages which have different themes. One's for mining and one's for farming. In these places you will build different crafting structures like a blacksmith's or a farm, and this will aid you in your progression. You can decorate these as much as you like, and it will be a requirement to be able to upgrade your towns and villages as well. I love wandering traders that come around. They can trade you masks, blueprints, and give you steel tools sometimes, which is amazing. I really like the mask varieties you can get in towers. When I get a new one, I put it on, and I still haven't gotten them all, despite having a lot in my storage. Talking storage, recently they fixed a lot of my storage box gripes. However, I feel like inventory space really needs an improvement, especially for the early game. I felt like I was constantly playing Inventory Management Simulator. It is extremely limited and should be reconsidered, as you have way too many unique items in the game to have such a small inventory space. I felt like most of my gameplay back then was deciding what I would sacrifice and throw on the floor to pick up another item that I really needed, when in reality I needed it all. It does get better later game by a sheer margin though, and large storage box really help. But I do feel like it's one of those unnecessary time-wasting mechanics a lot of games have, which provides no value to the experience. And the reason I say I needed it all, because, well, with the tool system and the low durability, you constantly need to make tools. So yeah, you need the stuff to make tools on you constantly. So you have all of that bulk in there, and then anything else you get from an adventure on your way out, well, you might as well just throw it on the floor. World unlocks are also quite interesting. In towers, the main antagonist is the Wither. You will see this in the form of spiders and wither nests when you first start out in the game. Spiders are hella annoying, but there are ways to deal with them later in the forms of withered armor, which has helped me a whole bunch. The armors in this game are quite neat, so I like that they give different bonuses. Later in the game, you'll be able to explore into the Withered biome, which is a temporary thing for now, because you can cleanse the Wither from biomes to be able to unlock more real estate to explore in. I really like the cleansing mechanic, but there are a few things that definitely need changing. What I do feel is a bit misleading though is adventuring in the Withered biomes. In the trailers, they have several pieces of footage of adventurers exploring around in there, defeating bosses, etc., where this is simply not the case. Instead, you have quite a harsh timer to get through the Wither as quickly as possible by cleansing yourself at spirit trees on the way up to the portal. Once you're at the portal, you quickly unlock it, get the blueprints for the shrine you have, and you gotta rebuild it at some point to cleanse the area and leave. So you pretty much just race up to the top, unlock the portal, and go home or you die. So your time in the Wither is very fleeting because you can't spend very long in there regardless. Later on you do get Wither potions, but those don't last terribly long either. You'd need quite a lot of them to do a proper exploration of the Withered version of their biome. This means missing out on one of the quests given by the giant hand family, which means later in the game when you have no Withered biomes left anymore, you'll have to hope you find a certain Withered mob by the borders of the map. Those big giant bosses seem to be immune to damage as well. I was attempting to fight the giants, but he didn't take a lick of damage. all I could do was scan it, which felt very deflating for such a cool looking model once I found it. So boss fights are absolutely not a thing. Let's talk giant poos. I didn't think I'd ever be saying that within a review. I do like a good innuendo, but this one really takes it a step further. Giant poos are everywhere. On the ground, up in the skies, and if you help them, they will grow you a pretty ecosystem of their own. It's a quirky feature in the game, and I must say the first one you find is actually quite helpful. As if you regrow that massive poo, you will get trees that give you mountains of kelp. Now I kinda hope this would extend across the board. Giant poos are kinda demanding, you know, and you have to put in some decent grind for their quests. But every poo I helped gave me sweet nothing. They are definitely more of an achievement hunter's mechanic, but apart from that, they provide no value in upgrading them. I hope in the future they make them more worth it to upgrade. I think the idea in general is to provide you with more resources, like the kelp one, but perhaps they ran out of time before launch. This brings me on to biome diversity. There are technically 2 biomes in the Towers of Aghasba. I know, there is 3, but in terms of looks, the starter island and the mainland all look the same, and it's the same for the right and left biome as well. It's only when you go up north that it changes and it is visibly a desert. I wish it was a bit more exciting to explore around Aghasba. A lot of the terrain and areas feel very unfinished. It's all the same grey and poo brown dead grass textures, with very little points of interest to explore. The right and left biomes are great examples of this, as you'll find pockets of areas that are really well done, then miles of dead space with nothing going on in them. I kind of wish they focused on 1 or 2 biomes, did them really well, then saved other areas for future updates and expansions to the game, where they could have given those areas 100%. But it feels very empty and spaced out right now. I think how they can improve this in the future is making the ecosystems spread out a whole lot more. Ecosystems take over a very small portion of your biomes you're in, even when you've upgraded them quite a few times. I'd suggest once planting a tree, the foliage expands across the whole biome you're in a much bigger capacity. I think you'd have to remove the ecosystem limits though to do this, and from what I understand, that could also be a technical standpoint thing for them as well. As I know, especially with the tropical tree, that one is quite laggy to be around once in the higher tiers. I'd like to see a solution to this though, to make areas less plain and one-dimensional. I reckon for now, whilst they're working on optimizations, they could add in more POIs to help aid with this. Even if it's just like a clay mine you find out in the world with a bunch of clay nodes and rusty pickaxes. The world definitely needs more resource nodes, so this could be a great help. Or more old ruins with actual uses to them, like puzzles, loot chests, and things that make them fun to explore. Make the world interactive and see the story from a more visual perspective instead of reading text. You could go to town with the Sky Whale quest in those regards. Like, imagine finding a cave with Sky Whale paintings in them, and Hilda scans over them and explains about the good old days when they weren't extinct. Perhaps you find a special whale mask in there to wear as a cosmetic. Then you could explore the other side of it, the hunters. Have an old rundown hunting shack with whalebone weapons put up on the walls, the bolts they used to take down the whales, and a bit of whale history. And have one of the NPCs explain to you about their hunting family heritage they aren't proud of. Maybe you find a rusty version of Ajit's family crest in there. Plot twist. You could really expand on it. Either way, in conclusion, I feel like the Towers of Aghasba have some really promising features. They certainly have a lot of work in all areas of the game. I think the amount of communication they're giving to the community currently is absolutely stellar, and they should keep that going as it's really healthy. They have released the game as an early access, which varies in what that means for gaming these days, I feel. but I think it's quite realistic for this one. I hope they keep working on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this one turns out in the future. With a bit of polish, it could really be something. But as it stands right now, I think it's one of those games to wait and see on, especially if you want to play with friends, as that's currently not possible. That being said, I did enjoy my time on the Towers of Aghasba. I mean, I must have to be able to spend 50 hours on it, right? Progression felt very satisfying throughout, and I like the exploration elements. Portals are needed, and I hope for fast traveling from any point to them in the future, as currently my way to fast travel home is dying. I think a lot of my gripes are things that could be easily turned around and worked on. And from launch to now, they have been working on a lot of bug fixing and improving features that I previously may have had issues with. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the game, and if you've played it, what is one thing you'd change to improve the game? I enjoyed the concept with this one. It is very different from any of the other games in its genre. So keep working hard, Dreamlit Studios, and I hope to see this game thrive in the near future. Either way, that is all from me today. Thank you for watching. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!